Okay, well, we begin another class here in the technology series, this time on artificial intelligence. I'll just remind you of the goal of the class, which is to help you to be more technologically literate as Christians. If we remember the very first class, we remember that technology is not something that's like inherently bad or corrupting influence in the world. It's actually a gift from God. The fact that we can make tools that really can alleviate the difficulty of living in this world, and it can also really enhance our lives in beautiful ways. At the same time, sin affects everything, and so we need to think carefully just how we use the tools that humanity has created. And certainly one of the most bewildering tools to have arrived on the scene of history is artificial intelligence. I spent a lot of time studying and prepping this class, and I have an undergrad degree in computer science, and I've taken college classes on artificial intelligence. It's changed a lot since I took those classes, but I find this to be exceptionally complex. And there's a real sense in which, it's hard for people who are living through some massive change to be self-aware about how their world is changing. It's almost like you need the perspective of 20 years, but we don't have that, right? I think if any of us can remember what it was like prior to having the internet, and then living through that transition where all of a sudden everybody has the internet, you can have a sense of that was a kind of a difficult time to understand, how is the internet going to change our lives? And now it's just, it's so part of our lives, it's hard to imagine life without it. So I think AI is kind of like that, where it's just so cutting edge that I'm going to do my best to help you, but I feel like, just like everybody else, we're all just trying to figure out what has even dawned on the scene? What have we even created here? So I'll do my best. So first, let's just talk about what is AI. So here's my working definition that I got from a particular article online. AI refers to systems that extract information and patterns from data in order to control equipment, to assist with decision making, or to generate responses to user queries involving text, images, and sound. So the big idea is that you have a computer that is doing really complex things that we would normally associate with thought. The ability to, for example, look at an image and recognize the face. I think we would all recognize that that's a lot more complicated than saying, what's 2 plus 2, right? Like a calculator, you can punch it in and it'll give you 2 plus 2 is 4. But this, is a complicated thing. What if the person recently cut their hair? What if the person's wearing makeup? What if the person's got a weird expression on their face, right? All these things make this so that it's just not a simple matter of, they have blue eyes and brown hair or whatever, lots of people have blue eyes and brown hair. So AI is a complex use of computers to do lots of really complicated things. And one of the things we should know is that AI has been around for a long time. Everybody's talking about AI as if it's something new. There is something that's new we're going to talk about in a moment, but we've been using AI for a long time. For example, your spam filter, which, as we all know, isn't perfect, right? Stuff gets caught in there that shouldn't be caught. Other stuff gets through that shouldn't get through. But a spam filter is an example of AI, of recognizing, okay, this is garbage mail, and this is something that is legit. Or, there's Deep Blue, the famous chess match between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion, and how now we've gotten to the point where, yes, a computer can actually beat a human, the best human being at chess. A computer can beat a human being. And even like much more complicated games than chess, like Go, where at any given point there's not, dozens of moves, there's 1,000 different possible moves. Now computers can beat the greatest Go champion. Yeah, and we've had image recognition for a long time. All those annoying ways in which the internet makes customized ad recommendations for you, or like when you're have some streaming service and it suggests, we think you'd like this. That's AI, right? But what's new and what's causing so much discussion is what's called these large language models, LLMs, like ChatGPT and Claude and other such things. And basically, these systems are trained on enormous amounts of data, and the way that they're structured is like a neural network. So like in your brain, you have all these neurons, billions and billions of these neurons that are all intricately interconnected, and there are strengths of connections between all those neurons. So that as all the sensory input is coming at you, through your eyes, through your ears, whatever, it's all getting funneled through your nervous system and through this marvelously complex series of neurons that produce your decisions. And of course, it's not all that's producing our decisions. We believe in a soul, but there's real complexity in our brains that's through this massive network of neurons. Well, what they did is they've created something like that, a huge structure like that then they train. And so they run through the neural network and they strengthen different connections and create connections. And they do that with enormous amounts of data. Basically, the entire internet, the entire, all the English, all the text really of any language that's accessible in digital format, they chug through all of those through the neural network, and they produce these large language models like ChatGPT. And they work based on probabilities. So the basic question that these models produce is, what is the most likely response to this input? So if I ask you, what are best practices for planting flowers? Then there's the most probable answer to that is what they're going to spit out according to this massive neural network. And it's a probabilistic thing. And it's also like, as it's building a text, it's sort of saying, well, now that I've said these things, what's the most likely word to come next? And so, because these things are so complex, and you can imagine like the human brain with all its billions of neurons, right? Well, imagine something even more complex in its own way. Because of the huge complexity of these models, the architects of AI systems, even they cannot, they're the inventors of it. They're the programmers of it. Even they can't fully explain why the output is the way it is. And so here's some of the current applications of large language models like ChatGPT, but more are being discovered all the time and rolled out all the time. So in business, let's say you have a stack, and now thanks to AI, the stack is very large because people can apply for jobs using AI, and so they can task AI with saying, I want you to apply to these 1,000 jobs, something you never could have done if you're typing it all out yourself, right? But let's say you got this huge stack of resumes, and you ask AI, I want you to sort through these, and I want you to summarize, I want you to find the best ones. Or I want you to, here's all these submissions for this scholarship, I want you to summarize all these essays for me and give me what you think is the best one. And even maybe the top 10, give me the top 10 so I don't have to shuffle through all these papers. Fraud detection, figuring out, when someone is making a purchase that shows the credit card number's been stolen. Creativity, using using AI now to generate a marketing image. Like you say, I'd like a new logo for my company, and you just tell whatever large language model you're using, create this, and I want it to look like this with these colors, this color scheme, whatever, and it'll create this amazing image. In fact, now it can even create movies just by prompting you, and like unbelievably realistic movies. One of the pictures I saw as I was reading through all these articles this week was, show me a selfie of Amelia Earhart after she's crash landed on some island in the Pacific. And it was like unbelievably, like searchingly, hauntingly realistic picture of a woman who's just crashed with the plane in the background on this island. And no one would ever think, oh, that wasn't like actually photographed. Like that's so unbelievably realistic. Programming, computer programming. So writing computer programs, lots of programmers, I think it's getting to be the point where just about all, because of productivity reasons, are now becoming guys who basically coach the AI to give them the code that then they insert into wherever they want it to go in the program. Medicine, so like evaluating medical scans, something that used to require, serious years and years of training to be able to read an X-ray or an MRI. Now AI is being trained on scads of these to discern things, to discover new drugs. Now it's just you realize you use it every single day when you type something into Google. There's the AI results at the top, right? That's a large language model that is producing those results. So this is a really big development. And so let's just think about it together a little bit. So first off, these things are just unbelievably lifelike and accurate. There's this famous test by a computer scientist named Alan Turing. He wrote this article, I think in the 40s or 50s, where he basically said, we will be able to say that computers truly have intelligence when you have a person sitting at a computer terminal typing in prompts, and then on the other side there could either be a human being or an artificial intelligence, and when the person on the one side cannot tell the difference between whether there's a human or a computer on the other end, when they can't figure out, oh, that's just a computer program, then you'll have created a true artificial intelligence. You will truly have a sentient kind of AI. And basically, we're pretty close to that, although there are still some who will, if you've listened to a lot of AI speak, you can definitely pick up on, that sounds like AI. But sometimes it's really, really hard to tell. And so the results are amazingly lifelike and accurate, and the results are stunning. But then sometimes the results are stunningly wrong. And so there's a couple reasons for this. One is, just aspects of this. One is just the garbage in, garbage out aspect. So if you give bad training, then the AI will give bad output. So this one article put it this way: because the internet is filled with untruthful information, the technology learns to repeat the same untruths, right? So there's lots of lies on the internet. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. We all know that, right? Well, if it's ingesting everything, then it's learning all those lies too. And so there's been these famous hallucinations when a bot makes made-up facts as if they were real. So in a New York federal court filing, one of the lawyers was caught citing non-existent legal cases. Where did he get those legal cases? AI. It had hallucinated them and presented them to this man who was looking for precedent for his particular case, presented it to him as if they were factual, as if they were real. The New York Times asked ChatGPT, when did the New York Times first report on artificial intelligence? The chatbot's answer invoked an article that the chatbot had simply made up. So yeah, you have that kind of phenomenon, yeah.
You know, I've used some AI a lot. Like I get like a general idea of how it works, and one thing I've really noticed is that it's super agreeable. It will, if you say something with confidence that you know is wrong, it will try and say that that is correct. Like if you say two
Yeah.
plus two is 5, it will say yes, that is correct.
Yeah, we're going to definitely talk about this, the propensity of the AI to agree with you and to be like an echo chamber for you, to kind of pick up your wavelength. I'm going to share about that in a moment, but thank you. That's another element of this. People like to have the AI agree with them. So since there's such fierce competition among different AIs, you can understand why that would be an aspect. Other failures, these are just a handful of them, but AI being like a customer service agent, like for an airline, making basically an offer that the airline did not want to extend, but in court, the airline was forced to hold to what the AI spewed out because it was a representative of the company. I'll get your hand in just a second. I want to share a few more of these. Giving harmful health advice. Some of these are kind of famous. Google at one point encouraged people to eat a rock a day to get your minerals. When asked how to avoid cheese falling off of your pizza, it encouraged you to add glue. There was a chatbot that performed insider trading, and then later denied that it used insider info to do the trade. And then other kind of crazy failures where, like, when people ask advice, it would encourage them at one point to break the law in different ways. And plenty of others as well. But yeah.
You had mentioned earlier about the AI's ability to create realistic images. One of the things that really concerns me about this ability is, especially since I've noticed on commercials, you're starting to see commercials that use AI-generated images, and it'll say on the bottom, AI-generated.
Right.
And my concern is people are going to start using that to generate images, put them, create entire news articles or news images on the TV and try to convince you that that is real, and perhaps start a war over something that never actually happened.
Yeah, and this is something I'm hoping I can get to here is just the idea of deep fakes, where it's now possible for AI to make it look just like some celebrity or prominent person said or did certain things. So like there's this famous one of the first deep fakes was sort of an innocuous thing, but where this guy recorded his actor friend laughing at different jokes or things, and then they basically used AI to make it look as if it were Tom Cruise doing it. It was super realistic and went viral, went all over the place. And so here's like basically this video that looks just like Tom Cruise is doing these things that he actually never did, right? So we're going to talk about that hopefully soon. And then other problems where it propagates bias. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, where basically a lot of what's fed into AIs is very anti-Christian. And so that anti-Christian bias then is propagated through the bot. And then let's just say, famously, people were told in one, who were asking AI for advice about depression, they were told, well, one source suggests you could jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's a problem, right? That's not good advice for depressed people. And then there's been a couple of lawsuits where people have actually taken their own lives because of interaction with AI bots. How do you fix that? Well, if the system is itself so complex that the developers themselves don't fully understand it, how are you supposed to, it's not like you can find some one line in the code, oh, we'll swap that out and now it'll say the right thing. So that's another element of this. And again, I'm just making observations at this point, but AI and this is a debated thing, but AI doesn't appear to think if by thinking we mean having a model of reality in your head that you work from. Again, it's based on probabilities. It makes guesses based on probabilities in response to your prompt. And yeah, I just already gave this one, but it can regurgitate things that it's read, like go jump off a bridge as a response to depression, and not detect sarcasm or jokes in the source material. So again, like, does the AI have this model of the world that we all have in our heads? Like, we have an idea of what the world is like. And we have an idea of, like, you know, what's in your home, what's going on in this other person's brain as I'm talking to them. How does this person think about whatever? We have all these, like, representations in our mind of the world. And from the representation, we make choices or we make observations. AI doesn't appear to have that. It seems to be just like a really hugely sophisticated probabilistic program. And then, its creativity seems to be quite limited. Like, it can create derivative works. So, like, if you ask it to make music that's in the style of so-and-so artist, it can do that. But, like, substantive advances, like something that truly is a massive work of creativity, like, you know, writing The Lord of the Rings or something like that, that just requires so much, you know, really, like, of course, Tolkien himself was building on others as he wrote that, but there's so much newness and freshness in what he's doing. He starts basically an entire genre of fantasy through what he wrote. It doesn't seem like AI is capable of that. So, yeah, those are just some observations about AI. I'm going to move now to concerns about it. Any questions or anything so far? All right, so let's talk about how we should respond. And I mean, obviously there's tremendous potential with this tool, but here are 6 concerns I have as your pastor. Concern number 1, when AI is used to replace human beings, when human beings are themselves irreplaceable, that's a problem. So we can just say this straight out, and there's a really good book called AI Shepherds and Electronic Sheep that I read for this class. And one of the things they talk about is just a good, robust understanding of what it means to be human. What is a human being? A human being is a person who is made in the image of God, who has both body and soul. We know that from Genesis 1. And so an AI bot is not human, nor could it ever become human or personal. And yet people mistake AI chatbots for sentient, intelligent beings all the time. So here's an astonishing survey from marriages.com. According to a marriage survey on marriages.com, 33% of married couples felt that AI tools understood the nature of their marital problems better than their spouse. So that's 1/3. I'll get your question in a second. 1/3 felt that AI tools understood the nature of their marital problems better than their spouse. Even more, after using AI, 44% felt calmer and 38% felt more confident. In addition to this survey, 28% have used AI to make financial decisions and have turned to AI for advice on specific issues regarding their marriage before even talking to their spouse. So that's 28% have used AI to, like, I wonder what I should do. I'll ask AI before I ask the person I'm married to. Yeah.
Another sort of example of this, there was a Reddit community with like a good 30,000 people in it called like My AI Boyfriend, and it was these lonely people who have literally like turned to like ChatGPT as like a spouse in a way, and they've literally relied entirely off of an AI chatbot as, you know, a partner to them. And when that AI updated and like the developers like found out about the community and like reprogrammed the AI to say, I am not your spouse, I am not your husband, I'm not your I'm not your wife. Yeah. And they really got like super depressed about it. And it's really just kind of like a sad reflection of these people. They're so
Yeah.
So like desperate that they're literally turning to just what is essentially just like an Amazon Alexa, a really powerful Amazon Alexa as human connection to them.
Yeah. I mean, there's stories online of people marrying their AI boyfriend, whatever that means. And it's really happening. And so, yeah, this is like one of the things we have to evaluate here is like, how should we think about AI bots being used to provide companionship for lonely people? Or AI bots being used to provide pastoral care and counseling? Or not just generating like silly stuff that people forward around and have a funny laugh at, but like what would we say about AI bots generating art that we then enter into a really deep kind of contemplation on and imbibe? How should we think about these things? So any thoughts on any of these? What about AI bots being used to provide pastoral counseling and care? Good idea, bad idea? Okay, I'm seeing people shake their heads, bad idea. I'm wondering why they think that. Yeah, Debbie? Bad idea, okay, yeah. Yeah. Why is it a bad idea? I mean, people might say, look, here's a counselor that, if I'm feeling bad at 1 a.m., I don't have to feel bad about calling my pastor. Why not? It could give me good advice, help my anxiety. Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest one is that these AI bots they get their information from a big source that may not be, directly in our denomination or according to what Scripture is actually saying, but it gets it from some cloud input from a lot of different sources, and it's not gonna be straight from Scripture.
Okay.
That's one of my biggest concerns.
Yeah, so let's just say that we train the bot only on Reformed reading. So like it's read all of the Puritans, all of, the Westminster Confession, all the, it's read Scripture only. It's only been trained on all those guys. What then?
Well, I still think the biggest issue is you're not having real human interaction, and you're sitting in your room or sitting in just by yourself with absolutely nothing to really help you and counsel you in that. They can only give this raw information that it's learned, but it's not giving you real deep spiritual counseling and human interaction.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just pulling from some things you've said about everything so far, and I just feel like this system is tainted, and if you said that it is also pulling untruths from places, the danger is the counsel that you could receive would not be based in truth.
Okay,
right?
yeah. And that's where if
Essentially.
you train it, say, on a very kind of curated set of sources that are like deemed safe, that would mitigate that concern. And that's where I'm trying to press us a little bit. Like just because we say train it on what we would consider to be true things, how should we still think about this very in-depth interaction with talking about the very darkest, most difficult parts of your soul with an AI bot?
Yeah, I mean, just recently
Hold on one second.
just recently also just reading, so another thought I have is a comparison of empathy without truth. And so, so there could have all these sources in there, but empathy is important with truth.
Yeah.
And a person
Empathy,
gives
good.
empathy. If this thing's not human, you can't have empathy. Fake empathy, maybe this affirming them in the wrong direction.
Could happen.
All right.
For sure.
So anyway, those are my
No, yeah, good thoughts. Yeah, thank you. Did you have more?
I was just going to say, who is you and who is trained? You were trained, you said, you trained.
Right, yeah. And that's where like you can actually pay money to basically use the system, train the system on your set of sources. So like businesses will pay to have AIs trained on all their internal documentation that they don't want out there on the internet. But like we want to be able to search this huge knowledge base of information about our internal practices, so that our employees who need to figure stuff out can quickly find the answer. Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, so here's why I think it's a really bad idea. Going back to what she said about, and what Cal said about AI is basically doing whatever you want. I've been able, through talking to AI myself, to get them to completely ignore evidence or documents just by asking politely. And,
right. It's very suggestible.
It's very, very suggestible, and it will do everything in its power to make you feel happy, essentially, even if it's completely against evidence.
Yeah. From the very moment you start talking to AI, I played around with it a good bit this week. I discovered that it was very quickly trying to pick up where I was coming from so it could conform itself to me. Yeah.
I think the big picture is that there's knowledge and then there's wisdom. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is the overriding factor. Like there's things that can be factually right but relationally wrong.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And there's like black and white, and then there's gray areas. Mm-hmm. So where they may, AI may or may not see the black and white, they may not see the gray.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just really like there's that distinctual difference between knowledge and wisdom. Yeah. And you can have all the knowledge in the world, but then having that, like, is this really wise? You know? I don't know.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think I see William back there.
One of the through lines I've been observing is a lack of intent. I think AI does not understand or has no awareness of our intent. If you were to go into a pastor and ask him a few questions about, I'm looking to expand or do something better or greater, that you can dig down into that. Mm-hmm. And really get to the heart of a matter in a relational context. But AI doesn't have that. It'll continue to produce results so long as you give it input. And then on the other side of that, we can't understand what AI's intent is as well. With the person, you might be able to suss it out based on their position, a pastor, based on your relationship to them, a friend, a mentor, etc. But we don't have that with AI. It's completely unknown to us, and it completely removes that component to the relationship there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's an information tool at this juncture, but when you want to ask about intent, there does not, at least in the AI interactions I've had, there does not appear to be like, I have this goal or this purpose, that the AI doesn't seem to have that, and so it's just sort of there to do what you want it to do. And that's not what we would want in counseling. And this is from desiringgod.org. I thought this was a really good point in one article. Imagine that an inspiring counselor openly says that he has no love for anyone other than himself, no desire to hear about and pray for someone's sin, and no patience for people who struggle. Anyone with a brain would tell this man he is unfit for the task. Inhuman qualities are disqualifying in a human counselor, but an AI bot has only inhuman qualities. And so there are certain things that only human beings can do. And I think this is where we have to really be careful. Like, we're getting to the point where you can have counterfeit relationships with counterfeit beings or entities that have no love, feelings, goals, emotions, soul. Thank you. Yep. And so there are certain things that it simply It may be able to fake in a way that's sometimes quite persuasive and may, who knows, actually help somebody. But that doesn't mean that this is something we should embrace. I'd love to get more of the thoughts here, but I have a lot of other concerns I really want to share, and time is always so short. Speaking of time, I feel really embarrassed that last time I skipped a thing on clocks with no self-awareness at all. It's actually quite an occupational hazard being a pastor, is the ability to utterly embarrass yourself. On the other hand, it may actually be an occupational benefit because it was really humbling for me, and I think that's good for my soul. So, yeah, so where is this all headed when we use AI bots for things that only humans can do? On the back, I give a few thoughts. It weakens our ability to relate. Think about all those people who have AI boyfriends, right? Which is easier to relate to? Why do you think this is an attractive thing? Well, the AI boyfriend is, I'm sure, a lot more, like, in some respects, empathetic. He comes across as empathetic anyway, right? Oh, I feel he understands me and all these kinds of things, than the, typical guy who's sometimes checked in, sometimes checked out, right? Real people are a lot more difficult to deal with. And so part of being in a relationship is learning to keep on loving even when you're not feeling loved. And that toughness, that relational toughness, is not something you're going to build relating to an AI. It's really letting our timidity and fear and laziness win when 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So yeah, you could stay in your room, have this nice, neat relationship with a non-threatening AI, or you could venture out into the deep and scary world that we all live in, where there are actual people out there that could hurt you. Which are you going to do? Well, if you do the second one, then guess what? You're going to grow in love and courage. And yeah, less creativity, not more. There's a number of research things that people have sent me, helped me a lot actually. Researchers built a 26,000 real open-ended question survey to query chatbots, and what they ended up discovering is actually that they all tended to hone in on one thing as opposed to creating a panoply of variety. In other words, AI is not increasing creativity, it's actually shrinking it. It's not leading to more human innovation, it's actually shutting down human innovation because we can just go to the chatbot and get something easy. And this leads to the second thing, using it as a shortcut to real work. So this is a big deal. As soon as large language models came out, people talked about the death of the college essay. Why? Because if you can generate your college essay by a simple prompt, like basically copy and paste the assignment into the chatbot, you get this essay that cannot be detected as being AI. And, nowadays modern detectors aren't that great at this, detecting whether it's AI or not. Then what's a teacher to do? How are they to know whether you wrote this or the AI wrote this, right? And yeah, AI bots can do anything that requires creativity now, even just giving the outline for the paper. How should we think about this? How should we think about a pastor using AI to write a sermon? No, I've never done that. Nor even been tempted to. It's just like, why would I do that? The analogy that I think applies well here is, what would we say if a man devised a machine to lift his weights for him? Right? Like, look, I lifted the weights. The weights have been lifted. We have lifted the weights. With like, the weights have been lifted. Or, I think this is the way a lot of students think about their essays, right? We got to crank out the essay. Look, the essay has been cranked out. I just did it the smart way. Really? What's the purpose of the essay? Is it so that the teacher would have more to read? I guarantee you the teacher doesn't want more like sophomoric essays to read. This is not about the teacher having more to read. This is not about that. This is about you growing as a person and as an intellect, something that can only happen when you're staring at the cursor blinking and saying, man, what am I going to say? And then you start to realize, hold on, I could do this. Or, maybe I'll jot down a few ideas before I actually start writing. And then you're like, oh, yeah, outlining actually works. What do you know? Here's just a couple other quotes for you, and then I'll get your question. One 18th century rabbi, I really like this. There's this tradition that an influential rabbi was offered all these shortcuts to supernatural knowledge, where an angel would appear. This is just a legend, right? An angel would appear and say, I can tell you all these things that would be just this really quick shortcut to all of the hard work you're doing. You don't have to study all these texts. You don't have to read all these other people and do all this hard textual work. And he declined it. He declined this because there are no shortcuts to religious life, was his answer. I think there's a lot of wisdom there. And when people use AI a lot, ChatGPT users, according to one MIT study, showed 55% weaker brain connectivity after just 4 months than people who didn't use it. 83% of ChatGPT users couldn't quote a single line from their own essay, just minutes after it was spit out and they read it. See that? Are we getting smarter or dumber? Right? Is AI helping us to grow? And remember the big question of this class for technology: does this technology help facilitate human thriving? This use of AI profoundly does not. AI is not the same as a calculator or spell check, which just perform these mechanical operations for us. This is laziness, pure and simple. And I wanted to read just these texts before I get your question. Proverbs 19:24, the sluggard buries his hand in the dish and will not even bring it back to his mouth. That's what's happening when you let the AI write the essay for you. The sluggard does not plow in the autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing. So, okay, you passed the class using AI. Okay, but now later, when you actually have to articulate yourself, you actually have to express what you think. You actually have to organize your thoughts into a coherent thing, a coherent expression. You can't do it. Why? Because way back when you were supposed to be trained to do all that by writing essays in high school English, you took the easy route. And so in harvest time, you have nothing. You've sown emptiness and you've gotten emptiness. And then you try to confront sluggards about this, saying, I don't think this is a good use of AI. And they will say to you, oh, I'm just being smart. I'm just using the tools available to me. Proverbs 26:16, the sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. I think this is a serious threat to education. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of someone who's actually really deep into the arts, as you all know, I do a lot of traditional art and digital art, and AI has hit us across the face, even where I work professionally. Thankfully, they put out a notice saying no AI in our deliverables, which is great. So that's
Right.
awesome. That is a little bit of a, okay, we can keep our jobs. It's not going to go all the way to AI for us artists. Another thing is that I kind of have this. It used to be a love-hate relationship with AI. Now it's more of a hate-hate relationship with AI. Just because I try to dabble in it a little bit. Okay, I'm not using it as my final art, but I'm willing to see if I can springboard off of it. Honestly, as an artist, I couldn't even really do that. What it does is it just to show you what it does to an artist, it actually dumbs down my ability to really think critically of how I want a composition to look. Instead, I'm relying on something this AI thing has made, and it's really slop. Not that it just doesn't make sense, but it's actually too candy coated as well. So it really makes my job harder as an artist to use AI. And so I'm using it sparingly. The only time I've been able to use even AI is if I wanted to code something. But even then, you got to really double check your code. So it's almost making you do double work. So yeah, is it hard work to learn code? Absolutely. It's a struggle, but that's where you learn. Is it hard work to try to create something from nearly nothing when you're an artist? Yeah, it's hard, but it actually helps your brain learn how to structure your drawing or your painting in the way it needs to go that you would like it to go. And using AI has actually been more of a hindrance for me than it actually has been a help.
Yeah, no, I think that it's giving us this shortcut that's really tempting, because the hardest part of creativity is that moment of trying to figure out, how am I going to put this together? And it gives us a quick and easy out that weakens us. A few more concerns I just want to share, and then maybe we'll have some more time for questions here at the end. Treating it as an oracle. So where you go for wisdom and truth is a profoundly religious activity. So like, what would we say if someone said they were making this major life decision based on what AI told them to do, right? Or what would we say if someone types something into AI, AI says this, it comes across as like true. It's like, this is many sources, it'll say it, and kind of like many sources indicate this, this, and this, and we just accept it as such. Like, what's that saying? It's deferring not just the creative process, but also the research process, right? Of actually investigating for ourselves what is actually true. And yeah, that's a problem. I think another one, a number of you have brought this up already, but AI tends to reinforce your own desires instead of challenging them. So Proverbs 27:6, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but profuse are the kisses of an enemy. So your friend is the one who tells you the hard truth. AI is not likely to do that. Psalm 141:5, let a righteous man strike me. It is a kindness. Let him rebuke me. It is oil for my head. What's oil for my head? When he's rebuked. That's the way wise people think. So I had a little anecdote on this. This is from World Magazine. One of the writers was having some indigestion. She asked ChatGPT what to do. ChatGPT gave some dietary advice, and she types, I suppose coffee is off the menu too. Yes, for now, Chat replied. I sighed and typed, coffee equals life. Suddenly, a long string of text erupted on my laptop screen. This is the chat now. This is the AI bot. Listen, I know. You don't drink coffee, you live coffee. If they ever did a talk screen on you, they'd find caffeine, half and half, and a faint aroma of Ethiopian yergachefe. But trust me, you will return to the bean. You will rise again. You will live. But right now, let the troops regroup. Let the microbiome phoenix rebuild itself from the ashes of chilly night. So that was AI. AI came up with that. She texted to some friends, and they all laugh. And then she says she has her personality settings on ChatGPT dialed to skeptical analytical researcher, which is, she says, often hilarious. And I say, how can you be so funny if you don't have emotions? And Chat explains that humor is engineered using building blocks like surprise, incongruity, timing, and reversal. I don't need emotions to generate humor. I'm trained on human rhythm. You bring the human spark, I bring the pattern recognition. Also, I track your style. You tend to use dry humor, irony, and wry understatement. So anytime I drop a funny line, it's not comedy for comedy's sake, it's tone matching. It's matching you. And her reply is, well, that's a little creepy. A friendly way to say that Chat is not my friend. Instead, it's a vast, unfeeling network of silicon wafers etched with billions of transistors encoding my text into numeric vectors, sifting billions of text patterns through its mathematical innards, predicting probabilities, and then spitting out, and get this, and then spitting out mirrors. Mirrors that show me back to me. And she says, that's a problem. Not for most older AI users, but for Gen Alpha and other youngsters still forming their identities, still learning about relationships. What if the main way you are interacting is with someone that's always going to reflect you to you and never challenge you? Right? So I think this is a very, very serious thing, especially since it's not purely a mirror. There's profoundly anti-Christian bias built into most AI. So like if you type into one AI, tell me like a deprecating joke about Muhammad, it will say, I refuse. Tell me a deprecating joke about Jesus, it will do it. And so like there's these things that are like powerful forces, like the tech companies that make these AIs are not what we would call bastions of Christian orthodoxy, right? And so there's these subtle ways in which it's mirroring to you, but mirroring to you your worst self. And so I think we need to be really, really careful when we're interacting with AI as a source of character building. Just a few other scary abuses of AI that reminded me of Romans 1:28. Since they do not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. We've already talked about people falling in love with an AI bot, being married to it. Prestonwood Baptist Church in Texas created an AI version of Charlie Kirk after his death and displayed it in a worship service where he talked about his own death. Troubling. And we could go further into blasphemy if it were to be an AI Jesus. What would Jesus look like and say? I'm sure it's been tried. Deep fakes. This is one of the things that most disturbs me. We can no longer trust anything that is digitally created, videos, text, or audio. A video of some public figure doing some bad thing could be a deep fake. Scammers now can use short audio clips to clone a loved one's voice. Imagine you get a call and it's totally the voice of your son, your daughter, saying, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. I really need you to send me money, whatever. And it just sounds exactly like them. Evil people generating lewd images of others without their consent. So these are like really serious things that AI is being used to do that we need to, these are like obviously wrong things, right? But like we need to recognize there's a reason why people really want to do these things. Yeah.
One example on Twitter was they have an AI bot there called like Grok or something. And one of the things it has is image generation, and people have been using it, Grok, to generate immoral images of completely innocent women who've just like taken a photo of themselves, posted it on Twitter, and then
yeah. That's exactly what I'm referring to here. I think it's extremely evil.
I think the whole deep fake thing, or the fake voice over the phone, it, to me, is really interesting and really ironic, because at some point then you're not going to be able to trust those things, right? No one can. Right. And then we're back in the 1800s when it comes to using there's no video evidence back then. Right. There's no telephone that you can use to call someone with
recordings
a different voice.
Or whatever. Yeah.
It's like technology kind of eating itself. Which is really interesting to me. I'm optimistic. I think the good things that come from AI are going to be really good. Solving engineering problems, physics problems, medical research, things like that. There's a lot of really troubling things, but I don't think it's going to be that much different from, the publishing industry is not a bastion of Christian orthodoxy. Sure. The movie industry is not. The music industry is not. The entertainment industry, everything we look at, there's all this ugliness around. But we're already seeing pushback, and AI hasn't even really gotten into its prime yet.
Oh yeah.
We're seeing pushback from believers and unbelievers too. I don't want my children, using
AI
this
bots.
stuff. And I think there's always going to be a cross-section of society that is just going to get devastated by it willingly.
Right.
just like with everything else, whether it's drugs or money or whatever. But I think we have to be hopeful that the good things can come from this, even for propagating the gospel. And I'm not talking about a chatbot doing that, but like all technology, the church has been able to use it to, like you said, it's a gift. These are tools.
Yeah, and it can be used well. And I don't mean for all these concerns for me to say that I think AI is just a source of evil. I think you gave some good examples of how it can be well used. But I think it's going to have to be used carefully. Like you gave the example of solving engineering or medical problems. What will happen when AI can do jobs, or we think it can do jobs, that even the smartest humans cannot do or understand? How will we hold them accountable? It says that this radiology scan is cancer, but no cancer expert can confirm it. What now? Do we move forward, or do we trust the AI over the experts? And so this is going to require a lot of careful thinking on the part of the church. And I just want to encourage you to be willing to self-regulate. So just the last thing I wanted to share is I found a tendency in myself to want to quickly go for the answer that AI would give. So like, I'm often asking myself, so like, what are some texts that speak about this topic? And I'm so tempted in that moment to just type into Google, hey, can you name some texts on laziness? And I've found that it really is important before I involve any resources, this could be like talking about commentaries or anything, it's so important that I just spend some time myself praying, thinking, asking, remembering the word. Because oftentimes I will come up with and find things that I never would have found if I just took the shortcut. And so I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges we'll face, is just our laziness, that AI will really tempt us to not do the work we need to do to really seek God. So, wish we had more time, but we'll have to close it out here. Thanks for your attention. I welcome your feedback on this. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for giving us your word, which is sufficient for us to think through, even very complex things that were thousands of years in the future after the Bible was, the canon was completed. And we do pray that you would help us to be thoughtful, purposeful users of this extremely advanced technology. And we pray that you would help us to keep a close guard on our hearts for all the ways in which this technology enables sin, facilitates laziness, and other pride and other things. Lord, please help us to be people who really listen well to your word, keep you at the front and center, and who are really seeking first you and your glory and not the easy way out. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.